it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So for those of you who are curious to learn more, we definitely encourage you to have a look at the Bhagavatam. And today's topic is also going to be on this occasion of Sankranti. It's going to be facilitated by our Satyabhama Mataji, who is already here with us. Before I pass it on to her, just want to give a brief intro about Mother Satyabhama. Satyabhama Mataji is by profession a radiologist. She has clinical engagements at Universal Health Network. She's also a faculty associate professor at University of Toronto. She travels quite extensively within Canada and abroad for a lot of work-related seminars and workshops. She's also been practicing bhakti for over 2 decades, and she's been involved in various services over the years, being part of the temple management, and she currently serves as a point of contact for fundraising campaigns, donor cares, and she's also facilitated many seminars, educative seminars within the temple community, within the GTA, not just our temple. And today she's going to be, as I mentioned, going to be speaking about this auspicious occasion of Makar Sankranti. So please join me in welcoming Mother Satyabhama for today's discourse.
There are a lot of new people here today, so welcome again to all of them. We hope that you'll enjoy so much today that you will come back every Sunday. That's what we do, right? So today I was asked to speak on Sankranti. So I thought we'll start with a simple verse from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. How many of you don't have a Bhagavad Gita? Okay, so you're gonna come after the class and I'm gonna give you this one. Okay? So we are going to read from this Bhagavad Gita as it is, which was written by and translated by Srila Prabhupada. And so I'm going to be reading a verse from chapter 8, Attaining the Supreme, text number 24. So I'll read the verse first, and then we read the translation. Agni Jyotiraha Sukla Sanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prapyata Gachanti Brahma Brahma Vidodanaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman attain that Supreme by passing away from the world during the influence of the fiery God in the light at the auspicious moment of the day during the fortnight of the waxing moon or during the 6 months when the sun travels in the north. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. When fire, light, day and the fortnight of the moon are mentioned, it is to be understood that over all of them there are various presiding deities who make arrangements for the passage of the soul. At the time of death, the mind carries one on the path to a new life. If one leaves the body at the time designated above, either accidentally or by arrangement, it is possible for him to attain the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Mystics who are advanced in yoga practice can arrange time, place to leave the body. Others have no control. If by accident they leave at an auspicious moment, then they will not return to the cycle of birth and death. But otherwise, there is every possibility that they will have to return. However, for the pure devotees in Krishna consciousness, there is no fear of returning, whether he leaves the body at an auspicious or inauspicious moment, by accident or arrangement. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is talking about the Uttarayan. And what is Uttarayan? That is the day of Makar Sankranti that we celebrate, right? So what is Uttarayan? So that as we all know that the sun moves from the north to the south and south to the north again. And we all live in our homes, and especially in Canada, we can see from which window the sunlight is coming. And in your own home, you can actually observe the rotation from the different hemispheres. When you live in the tropics or close to the equator, like those of us who came from India and spent some time there, it's not easy to perceive that. But as you move away from the equator, you can actually see the sun. So I know that the sun comes from the left side for like few months, and then it actually rotates through my windows, and I can see that the angle has changed. So this is exactly what we're talking about. That when the sun moves into the northern hemisphere, that is called Uttarayan, which is today and tomorrow, right? And so what happens is, astrologically also, those of you who may have some background or may know a little bit of Rashi and other things, the sun actually travels from Sagittarius into the Makara Rashi. Makara is Capricorn, which is happening, as we speak. So when the sun travels into the Capricorn, it's called Makara Sankranti. So Sankranti means transition, like movement. So the sun is moving from one Rashi into the Makara Rashi. So that's why it's called Makara Sankranti. It's also called Uttarayan. Then later on, after 6 months, there will be Dakshinayan, where the sun starts to move off and goes into the southern hemisphere. Now there are 4 different types of Sankrantis actually during the whole year. So the one that we are celebrating today is Makara Sankranti. And there are others like Mesha Sankranti, Tula Sankranti and Karka Sankranti, depending upon where the sun is transitioning. So those of you who have some basic knowledge of geography, you know that the sun moves around the earth moves around the sun. And so there are different positions. And so based on these positions are these Sankrantis. So that's just the geography of Makara Sankranti for you to understand, right? Now, this particular Sankranti is considered to be the most auspicious Sankranti. It is celebrated in many different parts, and particularly in India, where there used to be a lot of farming, and where people were aware of the sun's movement and the moon's movement. These festivals tend to be celebrated more authentically, right? So in northern India it's called Lodi or Lori. Then in Maharashtra and central India we know it as Makara Sankranti. Then as you go southward it's called Pongal, and so on and so forth. But it's all the same same festival that's being celebrated in different parts of the country based on the local dynamics and what is happening in that area. And so that determines what food is cooked, how they celebrate the festival, and it varies. From where I come from, in Maharashtra, we have very specific celebrations. We have something which we call halwa, like little white things. And then there are many small festivals which increase dynamics between families. And then we cook mithai from til, sesame seed, like it's the same in North India. And we give it to one another. And so, so there are many different ways to celebrate Sankranti, right? And so here, this is what the festival is all about. There are many other things associated with this Uttarayan. So there was a devotee or a prince, his name was Bhagirath. And he had multiple brothers who got into trouble, right? And they were converted into they were cursed, converted into ash, and this is the only way you can get all of them back was how? Yeah, by calling Ganga on the earth, right? So he performed many austerities to call Mother Ganga from the heavenly planets down onto earth. And some of us may have read the story. I had an Amar Chitra Katha of this particular thing. Even before I came into Krishna consciousness growing up, I had read an Amar Chitra Katha about Bhagirath, right? So that's still in my memory. So he brings Mother Ganga to the earthly planet, and that's why Ganga is also called Bhagirathi, right? And there are songs around that, at least I know one. So that Bhagirathi is Ganga. So when she comes on the earthly planet, flows through a specific part in India and goes through this Kapila Muni's ashram, where all the ashes of the brothers of Bhagirath are. I'm getting like aphasia today. Anyways. And she enters the sea. Which sea does she enter?
The Bay of Bengal.
Bay of Bengal, right? So on the day of Uttarayan, Mother Ganga entered the Bay of Bengal. So it's also considered to be another reason why it's so auspicious that Ganga arrived on the planet and entered the ocean, the sea. So this is another thing. In the Vaishnava culture that we all are following, here we saw on the altar there was Gauranitai or Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. So Lord Chaitanya took sannyas on Uttarayan. So he was very young. He was only 26 years old, 24, 26 years old. And he took sannyas at the age of 26, like very young, from Keshav. And this is another one that happened on Uttarayan. So he took his first initiation in a place called Pandharpur. Anybody knows Pandharpur here? Nice, lots of Marathi people here, so that's good. And so he took initiation in Pandharpur, and then that was the first initiation, and then he took sannyas initiation from Keshav on the day of Uttarayan. So it's very special for us because Lord Chaitanya, we consider him non-different than Krishna. So it's Krishna himself who appeared on the planet and took sannyas. Why does he need to perform austerity? Right? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But just to show us how to be a devotee and out of compassion, he accepted sannyas at a very young age. So it's a very special day for us. This year, there's a little bit of confusion whether we should celebrate it on the 14th or the 15th. I'm seeing like a lot of questions around that also. So the problem is the sun is entering the Makara Rashi, Capricorn, at night. Like I think 2:54. And so that's why there's a little bit of confusion because typically it's always celebrated on January 14th. January 14th is Sankranti. That's like what everybody celebrates. But this year, because the sun is entering a little bit later, we're going to be celebrating it tomorrow. So all of you still have a chance after hearing this discussion to do something different tomorrow. Okay, so we're all lucky. So if you have celebrated today, you can also celebrate it tomorrow because that's actually when the festival is supposed to be celebrated this year, right? There's an echo. Okay, one more pastime. Uttara was pregnant. She had a King Parikshit in her womb. So we are now going to Mahabharata, everybody's favorite subject, right? And so there was a lot of stuff happening. Obviously, we can't discuss it all. But there was a Brahmastra released by Ashwatthama. And it was a specific target. There's no collateral damage when you release a Brahmastra. You want to kill one person, you kill one person. It's not like the wars that we're seeing today. You bomb something and 100 people die, right? But they want to kill only one person. But many other people just die. So this was a very targeted Brahmastra. It was meant only for King Parikshit. And so Uttara obviously knew that nobody can stop this. There's only one person who can really save us. Who's that? You know? Who can save?
Krishna?
No, that's correct. So she runs towards him, and this is like in the middle of all war, right? It's not like an ordinary running that she's just running somewhere. And Krishna is already sitting on the chariot, driving Arjuna. And so she approaches and she says, save me. So simultaneously Krishna enters her womb while he's still sitting on the chariot. It's not like he disappears from war and then goes into, Uttara's womb. And obviously he saves Parikshit. But he took shelter of Uttara because technically he went into her womb, right? And so that's another reason why Krishna is also known as Uttarayan. Okay? And so hold on to this part, and we're jumping further ahead into the war when Bhishma Dev is lying on a bed of arrows. Okay? So there are so many parallel stories to connect to this point. So I'll go back a little bit further. And one evening during the war, Duryodhan goes to Bhishma Dev. And he says, you know what? I'm paraphrasing. This is not what he actually said. He said, I don't think you're fighting for us. You like the Pandavas more. You're more loyal to them. You also like Krishna. You're like a devotee of Krishna. So you are actually not fighting for us. So, he says, you've eaten my salt, but you're not fighting for the kingdom. So Bhishma Dev says, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to kill all the 5 Pandavas. Here are the 5 arrows. These are the arrows. You're marking each one of them. So Duryodhana is very happy. But he says, you know what? There are a lot of sneaky people here. Give me the arrows. I'm going to keep the arrows with me tonight. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to give it to you and remind you that you are going to use these arrows to kill the Pandavas. So Bhishma says, okay, you can take them and I will take them from you tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, Krishna knows everything. So he calls Arjuna. He says, Arjuna, do you remember that you were given one boon from Duryodhana? And he had said, ask anything from me and I'll give it to you. But you said at that time that I don't want anything right now. I'll come back to you later. Today's the day. Go to the Kaurava's camp, meet Duryodhana and tell him you want the 5 arrows. Sure enough, he goes there. And we always portray the Kauravas like bad people and evil, but they all followed standards. Once the sun goes down, nobody fights. They don't bomb at night like we do. They don't do that kind of war. That everybody's sleeping and you just go and start war. So evening time, everybody's friends. So he walks over. It's not like Arjuna walks into the enemy camp and he gets kidnapped. Doesn't happen. He walked in, Duryodhana received him. He said, Arjuna, what do you want? He said, listen, you have given me a boon, I've come for that today. He said, okay, you want me to stop the war? I'll stop the war. He said, no, I just want those 5 arrows. So he hands over the arrows. Arjuna goes back. Next day morning, Bhishma Dev comes, he says, where are the arrows? He said, well, somebody told the Pandavas. He came and took the arrows away. Now what are you going to do? Right? Everybody likes a good story. So he says, okay, don't worry, I'm taking another pratignya. You know how Bhishma is always taking these vows. So he says, today, I will kill Arjuna. And if I cannot kill Arjuna, I will make Krishna break his promise. What was Krishna's promise? I will not fight. Right? So Duryodhana is very happy. So the war starts, everybody gets there. And Bhishma Dev starts to shoot so many arrows that Arjuna doesn't know where they're coming from. And he spends all the time just blocking the arrows. He's not able to shoot a single arrow to hurt anybody. He's so busy just like stopping the onslaught of all these arrows that are coming towards him. And he starts to sweat. And Krishna sees that. So when Krishna agrees to be Parthasarathi, right? The chariot driver of Arjuna, he says, I will protect you. Throughout the entire war, not even once does Arjuna get injured, or he's stressed out, or he's sweating. He's just like shooting the arrows without, as though he's carrying his own air conditioning with him, right? But today, so many arrows, so much more. Krishna sees that Arjuna is struggling and some arrows are also hitting him. And at some point, he gets so angry that Arjuna is struggling that he jumps off the chariot, and there are broken chariots there. He picks up a wheel and starts running towards Bhishma Dev. And the description is very vivid if you can read the descriptions of that. And this is a very nice chapter in the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So after the class, maybe you can go to the book table and have a look at this particular chapter, chapter 9, and this passing of Bhishma Dev. The chapter is called Passing of Bhishma Dev. So this is a great sight where Krishna is on the battlefield breaking his promise to protect his devotee, right? And he has a wheel in his hand, and there's a description that all the dust from the war is all settled on Krishna's face, Krishna's hair, and it's a very beautiful sight. You can try to imagine that Krishna is running towards Bhishma Dev. And when Bhishma sees that, he literally stops shooting arrows and he's just watching. He's just watching this sight of Krishna running towards him with the wheel, and he is so happy. And he's literally recording the vision into his head and in his heart. Because Bhishma Dev is a warrior. He's a Kshatriya. So his relationship with Krishna is in Veer-ras. And to him, that was a sight that he wanted to meditate on. So when he's on the bed of arrows, that's what he's remembering. That Krishna with a wheel, trying to protect his devotee by breaking his own promise. Right? So that is what he was meditating on when he was lying on the bed of arrows. So try to meditate on that sight in your head when you go back to it, is to imagine how it is. So anyway, so he's lying on the bed of arrows, coming back to the real story. And so Krishna tells the Pandavas, dress up. Yes, you're going to see somebody who's dying, but you should be dressed fully as kings, because that is what Bhishma Dev always wanted to see. So dress up in your best clothes, finery, like kings, and let's go meet Bhishma Dev on the battlefield. So they all go there. There's again nice descriptions given. And Bhishma Dev welcomes them, even though he cannot get up. Using time, place, and circumstance, he welcomes everybody and starts to praise everybody. He gives many instructions to the Pandavas about how to run the kingdom, and tries to explain to them why they suffered, why all the things happened to them, and how they came through it, right? So even in that phase, he is fully cognizant of his duties, right? And then after that, at some point, he stops talking. So there's a lot of dialogue between the Pandavas and Bhishma Dev, and then he stops talking. That's the exact time where the sun moves into the Uttarayana. Bhishma Dev has a special boon from his own father. What's the name of his father? You can answer. All the answers are given by Mahabharata. So Shantanu, his father, gives him this very special boon that I'm giving you the ability to leave your body whenever you want. Until you decide, you can stay alive. And if you decide this is the time, you'll be able to choose it. So Bhishma Dev is waiting for Uttarayan. Which Uttarayan? Krishna. Not just the time. Remember I told you the past time? So he's waiting for Krishna to arrive, because he knows he will come. So when Krishna comes, he finishes talking, then he's waiting for the perfect time. Because when you leave your body, we read that verse from the Bhagavad Gita. You might wonder why I read that verse. So that's the verse which supports what happened to Bhishma Dev. He leaves his body, looking at Krishna, praising him, meditating on the form that he had captured on the battlefield. Sometimes, as devotees, we think it's okay. Just hear chanting and leave your body. Your life will be perfect. Yes, it will be perfect. But Bhishma Dev is showing that even during that difficult phase, you have to be fully conscious. Seeing, hearing, meditating, and literally he's like seeing Krishna in front of him. And so in that phase, he leaves his body. And that was also Uttarayan. So there are many references to this Makara Sankranti festival and the importance of this particular tithi or time that we celebrate this festival. It's not just about eating tilwadis and stuff, but there's a lot of more understanding to this particular festival. So how do we celebrate it? Many different ways. In my culture, we make rotis from bajra, right? And we use til, like sesame seeds along with it. At different places they eat dahi chuda, which also I like. So they make dahi chuda. Or you can make pongal, special rice and sweet. Sweet is almost like sweet rice. And it's considered to be a new year in South India, so they do a lot of stuff. They wear specific clothes. It is a typical white sari with a golden border. You'll see women wearing it. So there's a very specific way that people celebrate. They also offer new grains. It's considered to be like a harvest festival. So all the new grains get offered to their deities. And some celebrate by cooking khichdi. How simple is that? Right? We like to cook khichdi. So some people just celebrate as a khichdi festival. I hope they made khichdi today. I don't know what they made. And most importantly, bathing in the holy waters and giving donations. So even to give donations, there's a tithi tomorrow morning. So between 7 to almost 8:45, if you want to do any kind of donations, you should do it during that time to get the maximum benefit. So nothing is random. People just have stopped believing in everything. But this is all a science. It's not like random emotions that people are celebrating things. So if you dig deeper into it, you will actually understand the significance of why it is done and how it should be celebrated, right? So food distribution is big. Annadam. You can also do Annadam here. We send a lot of prasadam to the shelters here, to different places, women's shelters and stuff. So if you wanted to do Annadam, you can do that. We send it to the Govindas. You can distribute food that way, because we're not in India where you can go and serve to different places. But there's ways of doing things even here. So you could do that. And then we also have heard about the Kumbh Mela, right? So that's also linked to the Uttarayan. Right? So it starts on the Uttarayan. Whenever there is a Kumbh Mela in 12 years, it starts on the Uttarayan. So that's another way of celebrating, taking a bath in the holy water. We don't have holy waters here. If you walk outside, there'll be snow. What are you going to do, right? So we do what we can do. Maybe you can sprinkle a little bit Ganga Jal on it if you have Ganga Jal at home. Try it tomorrow morning, right? Before going to work. So there are many things that you can do. So this is just a quick summary of what all we can do and what is the spiritual significance, what is the geographical understanding, and how we can, in our own way, living here, celebrate Sankranti, which is tomorrow, right? There's another very important milestone for many of us, that is the installation day of Radha Ras Bihari in Juhu. So I'm not sure how many of you have had a chance to go there. So that is one of our very landmark temple of the Iskcon movement in Juhu. It's the headquarters. And so that temple was, there's a huge story. I urge you all to buy Prabhupada's Leelamrit just to understand how that temple was built. So their anniversary is also on Uttarayan, which is tomorrow. It will be the 46th anniversary for the Juhu temple. So lots of interesting facts around this festival. So please try to meditate on some of the things that we discussed today and enjoy the festival. So that's why I call it the Festival of the Sun, because it's related to how the sun moves. Every festival has its own deity. So whenever there is harvest, whenever there is grain, all of these things are always linked to the sun. So offer some water to the sun tomorrow morning, if you can, just wherever you are. You may have seen people do that regularly in India, right? Offering water to the sun. So tomorrow there are lots of things you can do, so wake up 15 minutes early. Okay? So that you can actually do all of these things. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take a question or so. If not, if there's, you can, yeah.
7 to 8:45
AM. AM. But you can donate anytime.
Thank you. you for that question. If anybody else have a question, please raise your hand. We can take maybe one or two questions depending on time. Anybody have a question? Please speak up, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So you said there are 4 Sankrants except on Sankranti. So if you can just brief about the other 3 Sankrants as well.
So one of them is the Dakshinayana, like when the sun travels to the south, is not considered to be auspicious.
Alright.
If you die during that time, you have to come back. Okay? So hold on.
Yes.
And then the other two are just related to planetary movement. There's not much information that how it should be celebrated. It's not linked to any harvest or any specific event, but it's just the planetary position of the sun.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Somebody at the back raised their hand.
One behind. Oh, same question? Okay.
Same question. Yeah. So the question is, how is this different from the winter solstice? So again, different people celebrate things differently. Winter solstice is restricted by date. Okay? So in the Georgian calendar, we celebrate it on December 21st, but that's not the sun's position. Okay? So yeah, we celebrate winter solstice, it's the shortest day in the year and this and that. But we follow the solar movement, so it's not the same every year. Because every year there's like a little bit of different additions and subtractions. So that is just according to the date in calendar. Just like people are programmed to think that January 14th is Sankranti. It's like that. So yeah, winter solstice they celebrate. Actually, I know a lot of Roman history because of my son. But the Romans celebrated winter solstice, and they had like major celebrations, but they're again all linked to the harvest. So geographically, if your harvest season is changing, they may be celebrating it differently, but it's not related. The winter solstice on the calendar is not related to the position of the sun. Like Adhik Mas, how do you explain that in the Georgian calendar?
The extra 1/4 of the day you had for the
Yeah, you can explain.
We'll take one last question in the interest of time.
Yeah. It's actually something I can answer. Okay. Ask.
Like, what is this church? Like, what are we celebrating?
There you go. Right? So what are we celebrating? So we are celebrating a festival called Sankranti. Can you say Sankranti? Yeah. So it is a day when the sun changes its direction and starts moving towards the North Pole. Do you know the North Pole? How old are you?
I'm 7. I'm turning 8
This March. Okay, so he's 7 years old. So this is the time when the sun starts to move towards the North Pole, Northern Hemisphere. You know the Northern Hemisphere?
Yes.
You know what the equator is?
Yeah, it's the middle of the earth.
Correct. So it starts moving towards the north, towards the North Pole, where Santa Claus supposedly lives. Right? Does, right? There you go. You understand now? And for you, it's more important that you eat some sweets. So whoever your parents are, you can tell them. They were listening, so they'll celebrate tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Satyabhama ji. Let's give a big round of applause for. Thank you so much once again, Mataji, for presenting on this celebration of Makar Sankranti. And as we heard, it's a very auspicious time to start any kind of spiritual activity. You're all here on a Sunday evening. You're going to get darshan of the Lord very soon. We'll also be having prasadam for all of you. We encourage everyone to have a look at the Bhagavad Gita as referred by Dr. Satyabhama. We will be having a table outside. If you have a few moments, please do come by and speak to one of the volunteers there, and you can learn more about Bhagavad Gita at this auspicious time of Makar Sankranti. So thank you all once again. I have a few announcements, and then we can all head to collecting a plate of prasad.